There are several objections that come up often when discussing the moral argument. In this video, I want to address 3 of them and the good answers that keep me believing that the moral argument is good evidence for God's existence. Hey, I'm Matt. This is Truth Snack, my channel where I try to help Christians believe with confidence by answering their tough questions and exploring the Christian worldview. Okay, just to recap, the moral argument is, if God does not exist, objective morality doesn't exist. Objective morality does exist, therefore, God exists. The first common objection is, are you saying atheists are bad people? And the simple answer is absolutely not. Of course, atheists can be wonderful, kind, loving human beings. The moral argument is about the source of objective morality, and it doesn't say anything about how individuals like you or me live up to that standard. Atheists can recognize good and be good people, even if the argument is true and they don't recognize God as the source of moral goodness. The second common objection is objective morality obviously doesn't exist. Just go travel and you'll see that different cultures have different standards for morality. And if I'm being honest, I've thought this myself in the past. But the moral argument is about moral ontology, which has to do with existence and asks the question, do objective morals exist? The argument is not about moral epistemology, which has to do with knowledge and asks the question, how do I know those objective morals? So even though different cultures don't fully agree on moral knowledge, that doesn't mean that objective morality doesn't exist. The third common objection is called the Euthyphro Dilemma, and it argues that if objective morality is rooted in God, then he's either just a middleman who's communicating objective morality to us, in which case we don't really need God. We can just discover it for ourselves. Or God decides what is good and evil by just picking and choosing, in which case he could have chosen that murder is good, and that just seems obviously false to us. In the first option, morality already exists apart from God, so he isn't necessary. And in the second option, morality is arbitrary, so who cares what God says? But in the last video, I said this very intentionally. Because God is eternal and unchanging and perfect, his character is the eternal, unchanging, perfect moral standard that we ought to live by. You see, the Euthyphro Dilemma is a false dilemma because there's a third option, which is that God's character is the moral standard. Altogether, I think that these objections are actually pretty helpful in clarifying the argument and helping me understand it more deeply. And because none of these objections showed that either of the premises are false, I still think that the moral argument is good evidence for God's existence. And if you want to hear more arguments for why I believe God exists, you should watch the next video in this series by clicking on the video that popped up right here.